They called him the quiet bartender, until he shot the governor on Christmas Eve. He stood in the rain like a forgotten statue, hat low, collar soaked, eyes buried in emptiness. Around him the city creaked and dripped. New Haven, Connecticut, December 24th, 1927. The streets were empty save for a stray dog nosing through trash outside a boarded-up shop. From the basement beneath the Bell Lantern bar came the muffled moan of jazz, like a memory of someone who wasn't coming back. No one knew his real name. The ledgers called him Sam. The register didn't call him at all. He didn't laugh, didn't joke, didn't smoke, just poured in silence, washed glasses, and listened to lives collapse. Once, someone called him the quiet bartender, and it stuck. He'd kept the bar for 10 years, longer than his bones had held out. The place belonged to someone bigger, maybe the Carreno family, maybe the police. He didn't ask. His past was sealed between the ceiling stain and the crack in the mirror behind the bottles. And that night on Christmas Eve, the door opened. No knock, no warning. A woman, hair wet like ropes, a wool coat, old but clean, one gloved hand, sharp eyes, not fear, not anger, memory. "Hello, Sam," she said. He froze, hand on a bottle of rye. Her voice was a knife honed on his name. "You shouldn't have come," he whispered. She sat at the bar, took a glass herself, didn't tremble, like she knew how this would end. "I came back," she said, "just like you asked." He poured for her without a word. His hands were strong, but they shook. In the glass, a shadow flickered, like truth had crept inside and curled up. The saxophone groaned behind the wall. Outside, rain fell. A street lamp spilled yellow across the puddles like oil. "You knew I'd come," she said again, "and still you stayed. Why?" Sam didn't answer, but his eyes grew heavier. He looked through her, like through bars. "Because it's not over yet," she said, "because you still owe." The silence thickened, not loud, alive, like breath in a locked room. He reached for a towel, wiped the glass like he was cleaning away evidence. Then he said, "Leave, before it's too late." She smiled, her lips a trap. "It was too late the day you put a bullet in my belly and thought that would make it all go away." He flinched, blood on the collar. Hers? Someone's from the past? Or his own guilt rising through the fabric? The music went silent. Then the basement door creaked. Someone was coming up. Sam didn't turn. He knew. The night had just begun. He hadn't seen her in 7 years. Not since the train tracks outside Albany. Not since the snow turned red beneath a trestle where they'd left her to die. She should have been bones in the cold, a memory that slipped like steam. But now she was here, alive, dry-eyed, dragging the past in behind her like a bullet wound still bleeding. The man coming up the stairs was named Finch. Small, mean, built like rust under pressure. He worked the cellar door and made his living off secrets too dangerous to speak upstairs. Sam had hired him once, back when he still thought trust was a currency. He didn't like visitors after hours. He especially didn't like ghosts. "You know her?" Finch's voice was smoke-thick, unshaven. Sam didn't answer. The girl spoke instead. "Finch, I remember you. You were the one who held my ankles." He froze mid-step. That name, that memory, like a razor pressed slow across his thoughts. "You got the wrong person," Finch said, too fast. "No," she said. "I remember exactly." The room folded in. Sam saw the bottle still in his hand, the cracked glass in hers, the dull shine of the pistol in her coat. Not yet drawn, but already decided. She was leaner now, skin like dusk, a scar just beneath her jaw, pale and unfinished. The kind only betrayal gives. She didn't blink. Finch backed up. "She ain't supposed to be alive," he muttered. "You said," he pointed at Sam, "you told us she was done." Sam still hadn't spoken. "I didn't ask her to come," he said finally, voice dry as cinders. "Doesn't matter." She tapped her glass. "I'm here now, and I want a drink before it starts." Finch moved for the door. "You walk out that door," she said. "You better not stop. I've got names. I've got time." He stopped, breathing through his teeth. Then Sam nodded, barely a twitch, and Finch vanished into the storm, door slamming like a verdict. The two of them were alone now. Rain hit the windows harder. Behind the bar, the jazz started up again. Slow, slow, like a heart unsure it wants to keep beating. Sam poured her another. His hand didn't shake this time. "You want to tell me why you're here?" he asked. She ran a finger around the rim of the glass. "To see if I still bleed," she said. "That's not a reason." "No," she said, "it's a warning." Sam leaned forward. Shadows played along his cheekbones. The mirror behind him held a smear of both their faces. Hers sharp and upright, his sunken and tired, like a man caught halfway through confession. "I didn't know they'd do that," he said. "You knew enough. You gave them the map." Her voice was even, but underneath it ran something raw. She hadn't come for revenge. Not exactly. She'd come to leave something behind, and that's always worse. "I tried to call it off, but you didn't." "No." She drained the glass, set it down soft. "You remember Christmas, 1920? She asked. "I remember the snow. You kissed me behind the Black Swan, said we'd leave after New Year. I was drunk. You meant it," she said. "And then you didn't." The clock ticked behind them, a crooked pendulum counting off regret. He looked at her. "Why now?" She smiled, but her teeth didn't join in. "Because someone's going to die tomorrow night, and I figured you'd want a front row seat." His eyes narrowed. "Who?" She reached into her coat and placed an envelope on the bar. It was thick, sealed in wax the color of dried cherries. He didn't touch it. "Governor Monroe," she said. 10 o'clock, Union Hall, Christmas speech, big crowd, good whiskey. Sam stared. Rain traced thin rivers down the window. Outside, a street lamp sputtered, casting clawed shadows across the wet sidewalk. "You think I'm going to help you kill the governor?" "No," she said. "I think you're going to do it yourself." Something cracked in him then, not loudly, just enough to let the cold in. "You're out of your mind." "Maybe," she said, "but he's the reason you lost your brother, in your name, in your silence." He stood there, rooted. Inside him, something coiled. "How long you been watching me?" he asked. "Long enough to see what this place turned you into." He laughed, dry, bitter. "And what's that? A man who stopped looking at his own reflection?" Silence, then footsteps upstairs, muffled, pacing. The upstairs rooms were never empty. Men with too much money, too little conscience. Sam looked at the envelope, then at her. "You came all this way," he said, "just to feed me this?" "No," she said. "I came to see if you'd take it." She slid the envelope closer. He didn't move. Then quietly, "What do I get if I say yes?" She looked at him, really looked, and in that stare, he saw everything. Snow and rail tracks, blood on a mouth, a girl who'd been left to freeze but didn't. "You get to be someone again," she said. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, the bar was still there. The cracked glass, the mirror, the weight. He took the envelope, didn't open it, just let it sit there like a ticking clock. Outside, the rain had stopped. The envelope sat on the counter like a quiet dare. Sam didn't touch it again that night. He left it there beneath the oil lamp, beside the empty glass and the ashtray still holding a stranger's cigarette. She had vanished before dawn. No goodbyes, no sound. Just a damp bar stool and the scent of wool and smoke. That and the ghost of her words. "You get to be someone again." He hadn't slept, didn't try. The city had its own kind of insomnia. You could hear it breathing through the bricks, steam pipes hissing, and rats rustling in alleys. The slow creak of iron fire escaped sagging under secrets. By 9 the next morning, he'd locked the bar. Not the fake lock either. The real one. The one behind the cooler that only he knew how to turn. Then he stepped out into the streets. Christmas morning in New Haven felt like a lie. Snow fell in small, polite flakes. Shop windows twinkled with paper bells and tired lights. A boy in a cap sold newspapers with ink still wet on his fingertips. Somewhere, a phonograph scratched out Silent Night. Sam walked past all of it like a man heading toward a decision already made. Union Hall stood at the edge of the river. Marble steps, brass doors, banners strung up for the governor's speech. He'd be speaking at 10 sharp, Crowd expected to gather early. Sam watched a city worker hanging pine garlands over the entrance, mouth full of pins, face flushed from cold and effort. No security yet, just a cop drinking coffee near the corner, trying not to freeze before his shift ended. Sam kept walking, hands deep in his coat, back down to the south side where alleys twisted like questions no one dared ask twice. There was a place on Hardigan Street, a dry goods store in front, something darker in the back. That's where he went. He hadn't been there in years, since before he stopped being someone. The bell over the door jingled. A thin man looked up from a ledger. "Thought you were dead," he said. "Not yet," Sam replied. The man leaned in, sniffed the air like a rat smelling blood. "Need something?" "Colt, 45, short barrel, clean, and a coat I can leave behind." "Rough morning?" "Something like that." The man nodded once, slid the ledger away, disappeared into the back without a word. When he returned, he carried a box and a wrapped bundle. "Same price?" Sam counted bills onto the counter. "You're early," the man said. "Usually boys like you don't show till the blood's already in their boots." Sam just took the box and left. By 10, he was back at the bar, alone. He didn't open the package, just placed it behind the mirror. Then he opened the envelope. Inside, a map of Union Hall, marked red at the pulpit. A photo, Governor Monroe with his toothy smile and dead man's eyes. A typed schedule, and one handwritten line. "He'll have 2 men, 3rd exits right after the prayer." No signature, just a single playing card folded into the map. The Queen of Spades. She always liked her theatrics. He lit a cigarette, smoked it to the filter, tried to feel something like purpose. All he found was a numb, slow burn beneath the ribs. The rest of the day passed in stillness. He didn't open the bar, didn't answer knocks. At dusk, he pulled the old bottle of St. Luke's rye, the one saved for debts that couldn't be paid. He poured 2 fingers, drank slow. The whiskey was sharp and old, like a truth you keep buried because it knows too much. When the clock hit 8:30, he dressed. No suit, no tie, just a dark coat, the new one. He left the old one folded on the stool. The gun fit snug at his waist. The city had gone quiet. Snow still falling, barely. He walked through it like a man headed for his own verdict. By 9:15, Union Hall was full. Lights strung across the rafters. Men in coats and women in gloves, all pretending Christmas could erase the year that came before. He stood near the back, watched, waited. At 9:58, the governor took the stage. Same grin, same polish, same eyes like pennies sunk in mud. He raised a hand. Silence settled. Sam moved forward, step by step, past the rows, past the whispers. Past the life he might have had. Then the music started, the hymn before the address. "O come all, ye faithful," played on strings with sugar in their teeth. And that's when he saw her. Far left balcony, in red, not hiding, not running, watching, waiting. For him. She didn't nod, didn't smile, just looked. And he knew. She hadn't given him a choice. She'd brought him here to finish something that had started long before the train, long before the snow. It wasn't about justice or revenge. It was about memory, about closing the door on a past that never stopped knocking. The music ended. Monroe stepped forward. Sam reached beneath his coat. He saw the 2 guards, one near the pulpit, hand near his belt, the other near the curtain. But she was right. The 3rd had stepped off. Sam's hand tightened. Then Monroe said, "I thank God for the peace this country has found." The gun came out clean, no tremble. People didn't scream, not yet. Sam fired once. The shot cracked through the hall like winter-breaking bone. Monroe dropped mid-sentence, blood blooming like a Christmas ribbon across his chest. And everything broke. Screams, chaos, guards shouting. But Sam didn't run. He stood there, watching the governor's eyes go wide, then blank. A second passed. Then he turned, calmly, and walked back through the doors. No one touched him. Not yet. Not then. Outside, the snow was falling harder now, and she was gone. Only the Queen of Spades remained, stuck to the front door of the hall, pinned with a tack, mocking him. He walked until the snow turned to slush. No one followed, not yet. The city had frozen in place, mouths open, boots planted, echoes still hanging in the rafters. Governor Monroe lay dead in his own words. Sam kept moving, past warehouses with rusted signs, past cold neon buzzing over shuttered diners. A dog barked once from behind a chain-link fence. Somewhere, a church bell rang the hour. 10, 10:03, 10:06. He didn't look back. By the time he reached the alley behind the bell lantern, his coat was soaked through, his boots heavy with meltwater. He stepped inside, locked the back door, bolted it twice. Upstairs, Finch was gone. No sign he'd been there at all. Just a broken glass on the floor and a cigarette burned down to paper. Sam sat at the bar and laid the pistol on the counter. He stared at it for a long time. Not like a weapon, like a truth that didn't blink. He poured himself a drink, not to forget, but to make remembering easier. The mirror behind the bar was cracked, spiderweb thin. In it, he looked like a man already haunted. Blood on his collar, dried to the color of rust. One eye red from the cold. At 11 rocks, the city woke. Sirens fast and frantic. Radios screaming. The name Monroe echoed off brick and gutter. It would be morning before they started asking questions in earnest. Before they realized the shooter hadn't run, hadn't vanished into the crowd like a ghost with a grudge. He'd walked out like a man who expected no tomorrow. He knew the police would come, not just for what he'd done, but for what it meant. Monroe had hands everywhere. In courts, in unions, in the bowels of banks and churches. His death wasn't a crime, it was a rupture. And Sam was the blade they'd blame. He didn't sleep, he didn't drink more. He just sat in the dark and waited for the sound of boots on the fire escape. Instead, there was a knock, 3 soft raps. He didn't move, then a fourth. He drew the pistol from the counter, walked to the door. "Who is it?" he asked. No answer. He opened it anyway. She stood there in a gray coat, hair tucked tight, eyes darker than he remembered. Not wet, not wild, just tired. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "I had to see if you'd done it. You knew I would. I hoped I was wrong." He stepped aside. She entered, moving slow, like someone walking over memories she'd buried deep. The bar smelled of gun oil and stale rye. She sat at her old stool, the same one from the night before. He poured her a drink without asking. "I saw your card," he said. She smiled faintly. "Old habits. That wasn't a job back there." "No. You set me up. I set you free." Sam didn't speak, just stared. She lit a cigarette with hands that didn't tremble. "You think this ends with him?" he asked. "No," she said, "but it starts there." He sat down across from her. "I'm not the man who ran," he said, "but I'm not the man who shoots governors either." She nodded. "You are now." Outside, sirens tore through the night. Then a knock, harder this time, at the front door, followed by voices. Sam stood, gun in hand. She rose too. "You should go," he said. "I can't," she said. "They know I'm with you." His jaw tightened. "I told you not to come." "You told me to leave," she said. "But we both know that wasn't a door I could walk through." The voices outside got louder. Someone pounded again. "Stratton, open the door!" He walked to the back, checked the alley. Empty. He turned to her. "There's a way out through the cellar." She shook her head. "They'll shoot you if you stay." "They'll shoot me if I run." Another shout, then wood splintered. Sam looked at the bottle on the bar, the one they'd both drank from, then at the pistol. The Queen of Spades still lay beside it. He picked it up. "I'm not running," he said, and she, for the first time, looked afraid. "You don't have to die here. I died the first time they left you for dead," he said. "This is just the echo." The front door crashed open. Flashlights, boots. He turned toward her, held the pistol low. "Go now," he said. "I'll buy you time." She stared, mouth open, but didn't argue. Instead, she touched his face, soft, like she'd done once in another life. Then she was gone, through the back, into the cold. When the cops came in shouting, weapons raised, they found Sam standing behind the bar, one hand on the counter, the other on the bottle. The gun lay beside it. He didn't move, didn't speak. They cuffed him without a fight, dragged him out under broken garlands and falling snow. He never looked back, and in the mirror, cracked and old, only the Queen of Spades remained. They kept him in a windowless room. No clock, no calendar. Just a single bulb that buzzed like guilt in his ears. He counted time in drops of sweat down his spine. 3 men questioned him, rotated in shifts. One calm, one cruel, one tired, all with the same goal: break him before breakfast. But Sam Stratton didn't break. He sat with his hands cuffed to a steel loop in the table and answered their questions with silence, or with smoke from the cigarettes they offered, hoping nicotine would coax out regret. It didn't. "You're throwing your life away," said the calm one. "You think she'll come for you?" said the cruel one. "She won't," said the tired one. But none of them mentioned her name. They didn't have it. Didn't even know she existed, not really. All they had was a photograph of Monroe bleeding in front of 24 witnesses and a trail that led directly to Sam. He'd made no effort to run. They found him at the bar, exactly where she said he'd be. The newspapers called it madness. Bartender butchers, governor in Yuletide slaughter. The quiet man with the loud gun. No motive, no mercy. The columnists guessed at everything. Veterans' trauma, unpaid debts, communist sympathies. They never guessed the truth, that it had nothing to do with politics and everything to do with a name no longer spoken. Monroe had buried men like Sam's brother without so much as a headstone, had sold promises across state lines while hiring killers to keep old secrets quiet. Sam had known, all of it. But he'd stayed behind the bar, watching, waiting, hoping forgetting would be easier than forgiveness. Then she came back and made him remember. They moved him to holding 2 days later. Cold iron bars, sour blankets, soup that smelled like rust. His cellmate was an old Italian bootlegger named Nico, who'd slit more throats than he had buttons on his coat. Nico watched Sam like a man reading a book with no ending. "You're the guy who shot the governor, huh?" Sam didn't answer. "I knew Monroe. He used to throw parties where no one left sober or safe." Sam leaned back on the cot. "You shoot him for money?" "No." "Then why?" Sam closed his eyes. "Because someone needed to." Nico didn't push. That night, Sam dreamed of the train again. The one in Albany, the one that didn't stop. Her body in the snow, lips blue, hands bound. But in the dream, she stood up. Bleeding, yes, but alive. He woke with sweat on his chest and the sound of rails still in his ears. At sunrise, a priest came. Old coat, broken shoes, polished accent. "Stratton?" he asked. Sam nodded once. "I'm here for confession." Sam raised an eyebrow. "You think I'm Catholic?" The priest sat anyway. "You've killed?" "Yes." "You regret?" Sam hesitated. "I regret not doing it sooner." The priest studied him, then slid something across the table, a folded slip of paper, yellowed with age. Sam opened it. Inside, a name, not his, hers, not the one she used now, the one from before. He looked up. The priest was already gone. He didn't sleep after that, didn't eat, just waited. On the 3rd day, a lawyer came. Young, nervous, suit too tight. "They're charging you with murder," he said. "I know. You plead guilty, they'll offer life, maybe parole in 30. Sam laughed. It came out like gravel and regret. The lawyer tried again. "There's a rumor someone else helped you. If you name them, they'll cut your time." Sam looked him dead in the eyes. "I'd rather rot." The lawyer swallowed hard. "You're going to die in prison." "I already did." That night he heard her voice again. Not a dream, not a memory. Real. From the shadows behind the air vent. "Sam," she whispered, "don't talk. Just listen." He sat up, heart pounding. "I got out. Across the river. You gave me time. That's all I needed." Silence, then. "I left something for you. In the bar. Behind the mirror. If they haven't stripped it yet." Another pause, breath catching. "I'm sorry for everything." And then she was gone. like a smoke ring blown too wide to hold shape. He didn't sleep, didn't move. Next morning, the guards found him awake, eyes clear, posture straight, a man ready to face what came next. They led him through iron doors and long halls. Journalists waited outside the courthouse, cameras flashing, pens scratching like insects on paper. He didn't flinch. Inside, the judge looked down from his bench. "Samuel Stratton," he said, "you stand accused of murder in the first degree." Sam raised his chin. "How do you plead?" The room fell still. He opened his mouth and smiled. It was a quiet smile. Sad. True. And then he said, "Guilty." The sound echoed, like a stone dropping into still water. They called for life without parole. No appeals, no sympathy. Just a long, dark cell in the memory of what he'd done. But as they dragged him away, Sam didn't look at the press or the prosecutor or the judge. He looked at the back row, at the empty seat where she might have sat, and imagined the heat of her gaze on the back of his neck. Outside, snow kept falling, and in the bar behind the cracked mirror, something waited. A folded letter, a photo, and a name. Stratton Correctional, Upstate. Cell Block D was where they sent the ones with no family, no letters, no future. Sam fit right in. The guards called him Bartender. Some with mockery, others with a flicker of something close to respect. He didn't talk. He didn't fight. He kept to his cell in his silence. 3 weeks in, a guard named Kellerman slipped him a package, wrapped in brown paper, no return address. Sam opened it with fingers slow and steady. Inside, a photograph and a page torn from a ledger. The photograph was old, pre-war. 4 men, 1 woman, all standing in front of the bell lantern before it had shutters on the windows or blood under the floorboards. Sam was in the photo. So was Monroe. So was Finch. And in the middle, smiling in a way he hadn't seen in years, was her. Hair loose, eyes bright, arms crossed. He hadn't known this picture still existed. The ledger page was worse. Names, amounts, dates, payouts, bribes, orders, and one line that stopped his breath. Monroe, 5,000, Stratton cover-up, Albany incident. He stared until the ink blurred. The girl on the tracks, left for dead. And Monroe had paid to make it vanish. He had told himself it had been panic, that they thought she was dead, that no one knew what really happened, that silence had been survival. But this was payment for forgetting. Sam folded the ledger page and tucked it under his mattress. The photo he kept, pinned it to the wall with the blunt end of a spoon. It curled in the damp air, edges yellowing. Every time he looked at it, he saw the truth clearer. She hadn't come back for vengeance. She'd come to finish the story, and he'd stepped into it like a man too tired to dodge the blade. 2 days later, Finch showed up in the news, found face down in the river near New Haven, hands bound, one eye missing. The article called it gang violence. Sam knew better. She was still cleaning up, and he was the last loose thread. That night, someone left a folded note under his pillow. The handwriting was hers. "You were never supposed to pull the trigger." He read it twice, then burned it in the corner of his cell using a match he'd bribed from the kitchen. Smoke curled like a question. He didn't sleep. The next morning, Kellerman came to his door. "You've got a visitor." Sam didn't move. "She's not on the list," the guard said. "Used a judge's signature to get in." That got his attention. They led him down a corridor that smelled of bleach and mold, into a concrete room with a single pane of glass. She was already there, hair up, coat buttoned, gloved hands folded in her lap. She looked thinner, older, but the steel in her eyes hadn't dulled. He sat opposite, no words for a moment, just breath on glass and memory in the space between them. Finally, she said, "You weren't supposed to be caught. You planned everything else," he said. "I gave you time. I gave you an exit." "No," Sam said. "You gave me a story." She didn't deny it. "I needed him dead," she said. "You needed something to live for. You used me. You volunteered." He looked down at his hands. "I killed a governor, and he killed 26 men and 1 girl," she said. "You just balanced the scale." Did I? She leaned forward. You want forgiveness? No, he said. I want truth. She stared at him for a long time, then reached into her coat, pulled out a small folded newspaper clipping, pressed it to the glass. He read the headline backward. Whistleblower reveals Monroe war crimes, 1918 and 21. There's going to be a hearing, she said. Congress, full exposure. He looked at her. Because of me? No, she said. Because of what I found in the bell lantern, behind the mirror. His heart thudded once. You left it. I left the ledger, she said. You left the rest. Silence. Then she added, the press is calling you a madman, but someone's going to write the real story. You? I already did, she said. It runs Sunday. Sam sat back. Something in his chest gave way. Not relief, not peace, something quieter. An ache that didn't hurt anymore. Why come here? Because I owed you a goodbye, he nodded. And then what? She didn't answer, just stood. Will I see you again? He asked. She paused at the door. Then without turning, she said, not in this lifetime, and left. The guards came 20 minutes later, back to his cell, back to the silence. He lay on his cot staring at the wall. The photo still curled there. 5 ghosts in front of a bar. He reached up, pulled it down, folded it once, then again, and tucked it into his shirt pocket. Then he closed his eyes. And for the first time since Christmas Eve, he dreamed of nothing at all. The prison yard was quiet, wind gnawing at the chain link like a dog with a bone. Sam sat alone on the far bench, coat thin, gaze distant. Every day now felt like a page already written. Across the yard, Kellerman watched from the tower, a cigarette burning slow between his fingers. That morning, a letter had arrived. No return, no name. Inside, on a single sentence, you were the only honest man in a crooked room. No signature. Sam folded it once and placed it beside the photograph in his pocket. He didn't smile, but the corner of his mouth twitched. Not joy, just recognition. Winter crept in slow, his breath clouded, hands stiff. But he didn't shiver, didn't speak. He simply stared through the fence toward a horizon that never moved. Because even behind walls, even with death on the books, he'd already made peace. Some men waited for release. Sam had already left.